Oh, look out.
Whoa.
We're we're talking about Jackie Chan's Police Story 1 and 2.
We
Uh,
are.
yeah, I stepped in to do the intro because Mike was going to break a leg. He was going to do some big kung fu moves in the background there. And I was like, oh, hold on. We don't want to have you
We don't
injure
want
yourself. Yeah.
we don't want Round Eye to hurt himself. So
Yeah.
as the as the saying goes. But yeah, no, this week
Yeah.
I'm Mike and this is Thomas, and
Hmm.
this is our weekly main event show. And this week, like
Hmm.
Thomas mentioned, we're covering Jackie Chan, a very prolific. I mean, I knew that before, like going in. I'd never seen these two before.
Hmm.
I'd seen other Jackie Chan things like everybody else probably in the world, but
Hmm.
it's crazy how much work he put in, and essentially he is the I want to say he's probably like one of the more famous Chinese stars
Hmm.
that that. But I'll let you
Yeah.
go into this. This is
Yeah.
more of a passion thing for you because you're a big fan, super fan.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm a real, I guess I'm a super fan for Hong Kong cinema from the 80s. That's my jam. But yeah, and of course that includes Jackie Chan. And to the uninitiated, we're the first, the last, the Nerdom. This is our channel. You stumbled upon it, and welcome. You're always welcome here. Where we talk about all things in the nerd verse, and this is our podcast where we talk about. Usually, we talk about a movie,
Mhm.
we or some central topic that we can spend a good amount of time on. And we also have our grab bag where we talk about all sorts of different things like comic books and
Yep.
our
Wednesdays.
recommendations. Yeah, and that comes out on Wednesday. And then we've got our final episode of our Star Trek Strange New Worlds coming out this Friday, that we'll be recording here soon.
Big one.
And that one's going to be good. So yeah, if you like our content, just give us a like, subscribe, and definitely give us a comment. But yeah, so Jackie Chan, he's he started off in his younger days. His family enrolled him in Peking Opera,
Mm.
which is a Chinese thing where they train at a very young age how to dance, how to act. It's it's very labor intensive. You have to be able to dance a certain way. They it's almost looks like I saw some film about it from the 60s where it looks like torture where they're stretching the kids' legs so that they can
Mm.
do splits. So from a very early age, he learned very about discipline and hard work,
Mm.
and that got him kind of interested in acting. And In the 70s, there was Bruce Lee, and unfortunately he died very young, so they were looking for a replacement Bruce Lee. And there there were several different attempts to replace him, and they would try to name the actor sort of similar to Bruce Lee, so that you had Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee and different variations.
That's funny.
And Jackie Chan unfortunately got kind of caught up in that, and Jackie Chan is not Bruce Lee, and Jackie Chan will tell you that he's not Bruce Lee, and he has a very different style of kung fu and acting.
Yep. He
And
does.
he got some fame in China with I think it was Drunken Master,
Yeah.
and then he did like 100 or more different movies before he went over to America. He thought, well, going to America will make him famous, and he did go over to America, and he did make a movie that I actually saw him in, but I didn't realize it. Cannonball Run, he actually came over and was in the the movie Cannonball Run with what's his name? Who's the star of that?
Kind of the mustache guy.
Yeah, why can't we think of the name?
I don't know. What was it again? Sorry. The Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
It's a
Dom
cult favorite.
DeLuise was one of the
Burt
actors.
Reynolds. That's
Burt
who I was trying to
Reynolds. Yeah,
think.
I was
Yeah.
gonna.
I thought, you know what I thought of? Like, because we've kind of shared it back and forth with different coworkers I've worked with from where we met each other at so long ago. But I remember somebody had the famous one, like where he's like laying in front of the fireplace and he's
Yeah.
bear rug and everything.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. I was like, that guy, you know, that
Guy.
meme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's we
Burt
were
Reynolds.
talking about Bruce Lee. I was trying to say Bruce, but I was like, no, Burt.
Yeah,
Burt
Burt
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
But yeah, so he came over. He thought that was going to be his big break, but there were so many actors in that you kind of get Jackie Chan just kind of gets lost in it. He has a scene with, I think,
Oh God.
one of the Fondas. But yeah, Peter Fonda, he has a fight scene with him, and they have him out in, they're racing around in California, so he was out in sand, so he really couldn't do any of his elaborate kind of fight scenes in sand because your footing is kind of loose in that. So he kind of worked with what he could, but it really didn't kind of spotlight him. And then he did a few more movies there. I think the last one he did in America was The Protector, and he was so pissed off at the director. He was like, "This is not how you film a fight scene." He was like, so it totally pissed him off. So he came back from America to China. He was really pissed off, and he was really determined to prove himself, and that set him up for Police Story. That was his movie that he wrote, directed, and starred in, and did all the stunts. Police Story was his redemption movie. And you could kind of see it. He's very hungry in this movie. He's out to prove himself.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is a good setup. I didn't know as much as I did. Of course, who doesn't know? Like we mentioned in passing, Bruce Lee and his son Brandon Lee. They both died tragically young. Both, I believe on movie sets. I want to say, or no, Bruce Lee didn't die on the movie set. That was Brandon. I remember that when he came out in The Crow and all that. And then one of my favorites I grew up with, like, yeah, certainly was Jackie Chan for this and that. Not as much as you did, or you where you ended up. But Jet Li was one of my favorite ones to watch. He did a sci-fi one called The One, I think, something along those lines. That was cool. But of course now it's Jackie Chan put in his time. You're right. It does show. When I watched this, it definitely was in the 80s, and it's definitely a little bit different from like what Western viewers are used to and whatnot. But it works. It works for sure.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. It had more competence than I thought. It wasn't just like slapstick or whatever, or I don't know, like kitschy, I guess. I don't know. Like you look at some Hong Kong, kung fu type things, and you kind of expect, over the top this and that. And it was a lot tighter than that than I expected, to be honest.
And a lot of the later American stuff, I don't think I've seen a lot of his American stuff, but from what I can see, it's just him being kind of goofy and likable in this. And in this, he's the male lead. He's not there's times where he's kind of goofy, but he's sort of like the everyman kind of role in this. He's not like over the top, he's not like the typical trope of the American cop guy that throws in his badge at the beginning of it. He's trying to do his job, and he kind of stumbles upon all this stuff and gets wrapped up in this big crime syndicate that kind of takes him down this path. But he's overall just trying to be like a regular guy.
Just kind of pulling on that thread, and then all of a sudden all came loose.
Yeah.
And he got it, and hijinks ensue, and then kind of like it
Yep.
was a
Mhm.
refreshing take on
Yeah.
like some of the more dumb
Mhm.
American action cop movies that I've
Yeah.
seen. I've seen a lot worse. Like
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
very bad genre to be in for a
Mhm.
while. Like 90s, where you had the Lethal Weapon knockoffs and that sort of thing. But
Mhm.
in any case,
Yeah.
I want to like Rush Hour. That's what I was thinking of, was
Yeah. The Rush
his
Hour
big,
movies. Yeah.
probably one of the more big ones that he did with
Mhm.
Chris Tucker. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of coming back to the center. Yeah. So how did you find this one? Like, what was your connection to this one? In general, like, when
Mhm.
was the first time you saw this, or who
Yeah.
exposed you to
Well,
it, or
like I said, I originally saw Cannonball Run, but I didn't realize it was Jackie Chan. But it wasn't until I watched the show called The Incredibly Strange Film Show with
Mhm.
Jonathan Ross, which I think we've got it queued up that you could actually play that. But yeah, there was
Oh
like
yeah.
a series that Jonathan Ross had called The Incredibly Strange film show, and each episode there was like 12 total in all for both seasons, and he would cover like little known directors and film guys.
Okay.
That's where I was introduced to Sam Raimi with the Evil Dead movies. uh,
Oh,
he,
okay.
he did one on George Romero. He did one on specifically Troy Hart from he's a Hong Kong director, but he did a one on Jackie Chan, which we're looking at right now. And
Hmm.
this kind of introduced me to Jackie Chan, and I was like, oh my god, I need to see this guy's films. And this was like in the early 90s. I think the actual thing got filmed in 89, which I don't think I actually saw it
Mm.
until like the 90s when the Discovery Channel picked it up. But I
Cool.
did actually on the uh Blu-ray that I got of Police Story, which I'm showing here. They actually have a copy of this on it as well, and it was kind of fun seeing that again. I really hadn't seen it since since I last saw it in the early 90s, so it was kind of fun. And it was really impressed on my memory, because like certain scenes I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's but yeah, just seeing the action choreography that Jackie Chan does is so inventive and creative. This is sort of like when we talk about action movies, I think the last action movie that we talked about was Predator.
Hmm.
This is this is kind of the action that I like, in that like especially in Police Story and in almost all of his Hong Kong movies, Jackie Chan doesn't do the quick shots where you go back and forth trying to get like close-ups of the actors or whatnot. He does a
Right.
one shot so you see all of the action. He
Right.
doesn't want to show that he's cheating at all.
Right.
All the action is real, and all of the hits are real. There's no there's no missing hits. He does it to where it doesn't really hurt the actors. He does like rubber shoes or whatever, so it doesn't really hurt when you kick them in the head. But he definitely puts like dust on the shoes, so like when it hits the head and there is contact, you see some
Oh.
dust, so that you feel that impact.
Hmm.
But yeah, and there's also like a documentary on that Blu-ray that kind of spotlights what he does. He at a very early on, he knew that he couldn't just do it himself, so he created this studio where he got all of these stunt guys. So
Hmm.
there he has the stunt group that kind of has multiple generations. They were showing, like, I think the Blu-ray came out in 2017, and they were giving him a special honor in Hong Kong in 2017, and they were showing like the generations of stunt guys went up to like the seventh and eighth generation of stunt
Oh wow.
guys. So he's still training these stunt guys on into that. And that level of trust that he has with those stunt guys, since he trains them, he knows what they're capable of. And so when he does different stunts where they're fighting, he knows where one hits harder this way, or likes to do kicks, or does better with the hands or whatnot, so that he could coordinate the fight scenes to cater the different fighters that he has. And it's well orchestrated. And he was showing in one of the videos where he doesn't like, with Bruce Lee movies, like if a bunch of people came at him at one time, uh that they would show up, but he would only fight them one at a time.
Right.
And he's
Right.
like, Jackie Chan was like, that's not realistic. If five guys shows up, you're fighting five guys at one time.
Right.
So he, and when you watch him fighting five guys, you think, oh well, there's a lot of planning and choreography involved in that, which there is. But he also has it set up to where every individual guy has you hear them say stuff like whenever they're fighting,
Right.
but everybody does it in a different pitch and says it a different way, so he knows that the guy that says back here, he's coming from back here, and so he can react to that guy. And
Oh, okay.
then the guy,
Huh.
if another guy says it a different way, he knows it's coming from a different angle, so he can react, and he knows that guy that says it that way will hit in a certain way, and he react in that way. So it's almost, it is a choreographed dance, but it's with cues, and he can, and it can also be spontaneous as well.
Right.
So you
Right.
can react in a unique way.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only is he his goes to his work ethic, but
Mhm,
he everything I've heard or read about, he does his own stunts.
mhm,
Like he doesn't, when he shows up to set and he works, he's going all in.
yeah,
And you get the full measure. You don't get
yeah,
phoning it in, or
yeah,
he's one of the rare ones that, like, where, yeah, he got famous, and he certainly got fame, like, super. Even though he was famous over here, he was even
mhm,
more famous
mhm,
overseas, like in his
yeah,
home native China.
yeah,
And that shows. But
mhm,
he's always been
yeah,
a consummate professional, is what I've read
mhm,
and heard. And
yeah,
that kind of shows through. So even though some things can be kitschy, you can still appreciate the quality of what you're seeing
mhm,
is real,
mhm,
real action that you're seeing
mhm,
happen. And you're right, he does do that. Like it's a lot more Hollywood with Bruce Lee. And I might get a storm of that, but I'm no Bruce Lee, expert by any stretch of the
yeah.
imagination. But kind of
Yeah,
pulling
I
it
know
back.
I'm no kung fu expert, yeah. I'm
Yeah, I
sure
know.
someone can school me on this, but yeah. And then when I was watching the special on Jackie Chan, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see this. And the only way to really, and I'm from Arkansas. We didn't didn't have the internet, so this so this is sort of the challenge. Well, there was the internet, but it was all text based, and you know trying to find something on the internet in those days was crazy. But
Had
so
to have
you
patience back
really
then.
yeah, absolutely. So there was really very little way to try to find these movies. And I would find them in magazines. There would be maybe some questionable ways of getting videotapes
Mm.
of Asian cinema stuff. And you were paying top dollar, $20 for a VHS that was probably copied. So
Mm.
you had to be kind of selective of what you got. So um, I wasn't able to get Jackie Chan stuff. There was some other stuff that I wanted to get, like a Chinese ghost story and certain things like that,
Hmm.
before I got Jackie Chan. So it wasn't until 1995 when Rumble in the Bronx came out,
Ah,
which was his first major release movie in America, but it was still a Hong Kong movie.
right.
And so that I remember me and my younger sister going to see Rumble in the Bronx, and yeah, that was our first introduction to an actual Jackie Chan movie.
Very
And
cool. Yeah.
that one was quite enjoyable as well. And and those movies are obviously
95.
fast paced. They're not real story driven. They're basic stories, obviously, but it's there to kind of add, to lead up to the action and add to the action. You're not gonna come away from a Jackie Chan movie kind of questioning your your existence in this world, but
Right. No, nobody's gonna. You're right. Nobody's
yeah.
gonna mistake it on over La Misera or something like that. Nothing
Mhm.
along the. But yeah, this kind of fights kind of slots into during that same time frame in the 80s. Just I was a kid in the 80s, and I remember seeing all the what like Van Damme movies. All those kind of there's another one. Not Lionheart, but there's another one. He kind of fell off to the wayside. He kind of fell off. He didn't achieve the same fame as a Steven Seagal or a guy I just mentioned before, but it's Michael something. I can't remember his, but he was like in American Ninja was like his thing. But like, shout out to anybody who remembers that. But there's like American Ninja 1 through like 4. Loved all of them. Like this, it kind of took me back a little bit to like when I watched these two movies. It kind of took me back to that kind of time frame of just the action. Of course,
Yeah.
those were not anywhere near as those are a little bit more Hollywood than Jackie Chan's movies, and he has a certain
Yep.
unique style that he brings to it for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were getting into anime at the time, Japanese anime, but the thing I liked was live action, and these Hong Kong movies were really what kind of gripped me. The Jackie Chan and Troy Hark with his Chinese ghost story movies, and then John Woo with his action movies. Those were really kind of really engaging with live action. Just what they were able to do with live action, it just really kind of captivated me. And but yeah, just kind of watching that big
I mean,
climactic fight scene in the mall at the end of the movie that's showing right now. It's just amazing what they could do.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Like the to do a setup, it's not just like you say, like when they do a close up, and not they don't show it. If he messes up one step, he's got to do that whole sequence all over again.
Yeah,
And just the
they're
incredible
all
talent.
wide. Yeah, they're all wide shots
Right.
showing everything. So if one piece of it gets messed up, like you said, they have to redo the whole thing
Yeah,
because
just
it's
it
all wide shots and in one take.
just crazy, like how he can flow and
Yeah,
move.
and even that scene where the guy gets spun off into the glass and the glass
Right.
shatters. He actually they're in Hong Kong filming that. He especially ordered that glass from America. They got the sugar glass, and he
Uh,
got the harder sugar glass so that it would break off into bigger panes, just so that it would be more spectacular
huh.
with the breaking of the glass
That's
as
cool.
opposed to just the regular sugar glass. That's how detailed this Jackie Chan gets. And there's a one of the scenes in one of the documentaries on the Blu-ray where he tells his stunt team of 17 or 18 people, tomorrow give me, each of you give me an idea for a stunt tomorrow.
Okay.
And then he comes in the next day, and they have all 18 ideas. He goes, I might just throw out all of them, but he says, we're looking for things that haven't been done before. And
Mm.
with hundreds of Hong Kong action movies, pretty much everything has been done before. So but yeah, that's his kind of his work ethic that I'm sure he got from his early age, being trained early on, that you have to keep performing and keep being better and better.
Right. Right. No, I agree. Yeah, like and it goes through and through. I mean, he's a legend in his own right.
Mhm.
Uh, he definitely deserves to. He's earned his fame, and he put his time in the salt mines and then some. Kind of like a not dissimilar from like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like
Yeah.
when Schwarzenegger came over, lick of English. He had a very poor accent, like all this and all that, and he was a big bodybuilder, big muscles, but it was hard for him to break into a role. And it's just interesting.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop him. You know, that there's no such thing as an excuse when you're talking about those kind of guys, from that a different generation for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
And
like
then
where nowadays
mhm.
it's forget it.
Yeah. And it was kind of interesting watching him again in this documentary from the 80s, where he's sort of more earnest and he's not um he talks more about his craft, whereas the later interviews, say like in the
Mr. Fury
90s
with
and
Chuck Norris, I think he
2000,
was.
yeah, yeah, in the 90s and 2000s where he's doing American movies, he's more of the kind of caricature Jackie Chan where he's always happy and and sort of, you know, kind of that goofy guy,
Yep,
whereas
more
in the
jovial and
yeah, yeah, whereas in this documentary you kind of see more uh as a filmmaker in how he kind of crafts things. And in you were talking about how he kind of puts himself out there in dangerous situations, but he does that sort of and then he asked that upon his stunt team and his actors. The actors also get in there like with his female actors. They do some stunts as well. So he puts himself in dangerous spots. He doesn't ask his team to do anything that he's not willing to do. So, you know, if he's willing to risk his life for a scene in a movie, the his stunt team kind of takes that upon themselves. Like, okay, well, if he's willing to do it, we're in there with him. So
right,
he kind of creates that team ethic that kind of creates this whole, yeah, and then there's sort of like that trust in the action as well, so that, you know, if you're doing this, I'm there with you. And in one of the scenes that he one of the movies he talks about in this documentary, Armor of God,
mm,
there's like this one scene where um he was supposed to jump across to this bridge, and he's supposed to grab this tree. And the first take went well, but the second take he actually fell. Uh, he said that normally with the Chinese film crew that he's normally with, uh, it would be different, but he was filming it in Yugoslavia, and the Yugoslavian uh, guy that was filming, when he when he accidentally fell, he moved out of the way for Jackie Chan, instead of actually trying to catch him. Like he said, the normally, you know, the film crew would try to catch him, where he actually fell and hit his head, and he, I think, knocked a hole in his skull. So
oh good
he
god,
almost lost his life on that movie.
good god.
And and but yeah, so that, yeah, it's kind of crazy what links he goes to. And then that, also in that documentary, Jonathan Ross asked him how long he thinks he could do this, and he says, well, maybe 4 more years. And obviously he's gone on and made films on up until today. So yeah, there's that scene there with him with the rag behind his head. But yeah, that's the various injuries. Yeah.
I just was thinking, that's crazy. Dang, jeez,
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine, man. Like most humans, like you might break a bone here or there, and it's not uncommon, but
Yeah. Yeah. You see that on the right hand side there,
ouch,
fractured skull bone and cave in behind left ear. And
good
yeah,
god.
in that interview with Jonathan Ross, he said that yeah, after that, when he fights on camera, he kind of blocks towards that side of his head, so that you know, if they accidentally kick him,
Right,
then he can block that part. It's like,
crazy.
man,
That's crazy.
that's yeah.
Yeah, like I said, he's very prolific, for sure.
Mhm,
It's just crazy. Yeah,
mhm,
and this is a fun one to watch. This
mhm,
is a good change of pace. That because we were kind of getting in not in a rut or whatever, but like it's just fun to have these more lighthearted ones. And then just to kind of zoom out and see his career and how it's
mhm,
gone on. It's It's cool. I don't know what his most latest one is. I haven't seen it yet, but have you seen anything like from modern day, like from the last 5 years or so, like, or has he slowed down a little bit?
I know that with this one, I think the last movie that he was talking about on that film was The Foreigner. He was
Okay.
in, but yeah, I'm sure he's been in a lot. There,
Okay. Yeah, he
yeah,
has been.
the
Yeah.
foreign, yeah, since The Foreigner, there's been quite a few. But he's done like several police stories. I think the sixth one came out in 2013. That police story, Lockdown, was the last one. So he's done six of the police stories. I was kind of
That's
curious to
crazy.
see the other ones, but
Huh.
yeah.
That'd be fun to check
Hmm.
this one out. What followed in series for
Hmm.
from Police Story to the second one
Yeah,
to
yeah. The first one is sort of like the Everman kind of story. Kind of gets wrapped up in it, and then Police
right
Story
intro.
two. Yeah, in Police Story two, he's more of a badass in it, and he gets
Right.
sort of like a team together that kind of helps him out. The one of the things that I noticed in that the first one, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but there's like this one scene where he gets stuck on a desk at the police station where he
Mhm.
has to answer a bunch of phones, and there it's almost like a dance, him trying to answer all the phones, and he does a flip with a pencil, and it's really an enjoyable scene. But one of the things that kind of caught me off guard, which every time I see it, is like one of the jokes in it is one lady's reporting that she'd been raped. And that's one of the weird things about Hong Kong cinema, at least during the 80s, is that uh the Hong Kong audience thought rape was funny.
Mm.
And so a lot of those movies at that time, you'll have that where they talk about rape, and it's a in a context of a joke,
Right.
which which was disturbing then and is disturbing now.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
That there was kind of like there was kind of a speed bump, like, oh, that's interesting, and then you kind of move on with the film. Of course, you can't give you can't drill down too much on it. I mean, for God's sakes, it was written in a different time.
right,
It's like written
exactly.
30 years ago, like 30
Mhm.
plus years ago. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like
That
society's
was
changed a lot too, and
Mhm.
it is what it is. But
Yeah, and culturally, like China, back then, when they were being made, it was still kind of odd for the American audience, and that was one of the things that one of the magazine writers that was like, well, if you're going to kind of get into Hong Kong cinema, if you
mhm,
run upon this sort of thing, that's sort of just so culturally, that's what the Chinese think is funny. So
right,
be
right,
warned, sort of
right,
like a
and of course, on top of that, Hong Kong back then was part of the UK.
yeah,
And
yeah, it
as people
was.
know, there was a 99-year lease, and then they turned it back over to China, and then China took
Mhm.
over for a while, and everything was kind of cool for a while, and then, well,
Mm.
doesn't matter. We're not a geopolitical world history channel,
Mhm.
but all things being equal, it is a different culture, and it's a different like Bollywood,
Mhm.
that they have their own style and things that are independent of Hollywood and all that, and
Mhm.
Western sensibilities or whatever you want to call them, or whatever. It's a lot
Yeah,
more
yeah,
direct
yeah.
overseas in many ways than it is here. Like, where's,
Yeah,
well,
yeah. And that's the scene where he's showing off his his indention in his head where the skull's missing a piece.
shit. It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy. I couldn't
yeah.
even imagine. Like, they don't build them like that anymore. That's for damn
No,
sure.
and that's one of the things one of the things I was thinking about while I was watching both of these movies is like, what's the Jackie Chan of this day? There isn't one.
I, you can't point to one.
Yeah,
I don't think you can.
there's not a Jackie Chan, there's not a Arnold Schwarzenegger, there's not a John Claude Van Damme, there's
No,
not
there's
one of these.
no, there's not even a Steven Seagal. Like, probably the closest one, and we covered it a little bit, or we've covered it in passing. The Dave Bautista's and the guy who played Peacemaker, John Cena.
Yeah.
John Cena, like there are those types, but they wouldn't be caught dead in a action 100% action. Although I think John Cena probably had a couple like offbeat, kind of not quite there yet films and whatever. I've seen him in Chinese commercials for sure, like plug in this or that, but that was probably like way back early, like when he was trying to get out of the WWF or whatever the hell it's called, but which is a whole stunt show in and of itself, but it's kind of funny. Well, we don't have those kung fu karate kind of things. It's a lost era for sure.
Yeah. And then they ask him about being insured. He's like, yeah, no, in these movies I'm doing, that they wouldn't insure me.
Right.
So yeah, it was completely, he was doing it all himself. And in this particular segment of it, they're talking about Maggie Chung, who was his co-star in Police Story 2, and you may remember that scene where she's running away from the bad guy, and the metal pylons sort of go down in
Right.
domino effect. The first time that they rehearsed it, it went fine, but the second time, it clocks her in her head, and they'll show you here in a second that scene where that take where it clocks her in the head. Evidently it split open her scalp and pulled back her, and they could see her skull.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So,
shit.
so yeah, even with the female actors, yeah, this scene right here, you can see it kind of knock her. And then that's another thing with Jackie Chan movies, when the credits roll, it sort of shows all of the bad takes for things, and you see it's almost
that's true.
It's almost sort of like Jackass, you see all the the stuff that totally went wrong. And yeah.
Damn. Yeah, they don't make them the same way at all.
And she did
way.
multiple movies. She did Police Story 1 and 2, and Project A with with Jackie Chan. And then this scene right here, that they were in Police Story, where the guys fall out, they were actually supposed to fall on that specially prepared car. They weren't supposed to hit concrete, and I think some of them ended up in the hospital on that one. But they didn't realize that the bus stops differently than a car, so the stunt driver that was driving it kind of stopped it the way he would have with a car, but it didn't stop as close as it should have, and it launched those guys out onto the street. So
oh, for sure. Yeah, that's just crazy. Like just the physical punishment he just put his body through. It's just insane. It makes me want to watch more of his films.
Yeah.
This is what you do to me, Thomas. You introduce something to me, and then I want to like watch a million of them, like really enjoy it. Oh yeah, that's the twirling thing. I've seen that before. I've seen that. What is that? What movie was that?
That was a Police Story 2 that we watched.
Jesus Christ.
The fight scene in
out of it.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that's real blood too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that little scene where the chair hits him, that's, he says a lot of times it's the little scenes that you don't think are gonna cause a big big problem is what causes the biggest accidents.
Oh yeah, I bet he's had a million concussions for sure. Like just you can tell, like but you just got back up and kept doing it.
Yeah.
Good grief. Yeah, that's crazy. No, this was it was a fun go. I do want to see the more recent that lockdown one. That looks really cool.
Yeah,
that looks really cool, especially like as like these these storylines, they kind of mature quite a bit, and they get a little bit more serious because you're used to it, and well, I mean, God, how many Lethal Weapons did they make? Christ, like 4 or 5, I don't know, something crazy, but
yeah.
that's the cop comedy, cop buddy drama kind of thing. That's also long gone, different era too.
Yeah,
Sure.
and it's yeah, no, one of the things that they show on the Blu-ray was, he did win an Oscar. I think it was in 2017, for a special Oscar,
Okay.
and he was really taken aback by that. When they called him to let him know that he was getting an Oscar. He said that they were speaking English so fast that he didn't really understand what they were saying, and he thought they were asking him to present an Oscar, and he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." He didn't realize that they were going to actually give him an Oscar. I think it was Sylvester Stallone that actually gave him the special Oscar that year. But yeah, I
Okay.
think that that same year, yeah, the honorary award, which I mean, he definitely deserves it. And then they did a special kind of a special award ceremony for him in Hong Kong, and they surprised him with all of his uh, different generations of his stunt team, like the first and second and third generation
Mhm.
stunt guys that he hadn't seen in 20 years. Yeah, they
That's
brought
great.
them out, and it was a really emotional thing to see him with them, and they told some really emotional stories about how he would if he'd find out one of the guys didn't have a car or whatever, he would go out and buy him a car or whatever. He was a very generous guy, even though he didn't really have that much money at that time either. He if he found someone that was in need, he would definitely go out of his way to give the jacket off his back. If if someone was cold, he would definitely give that to them. And it kind of just showed the character of Jackie Chan.
Yeah,
um
that's why I've heard that too, or read about it anyway. Heard it through like he's get you what you need, make sure you're good to go, that kind
yeah.
of thing. Like to take care of his actors and actresses, or like his
Mhm.
stunt folks, his people anyway, as much as
Yeah,
he can anyway. He never
right.
made it like millions and multi millions of dollars, but he made
Yeah.
it. He definitely made it for sure. I think he solely only does Chinese films now, or in there. That's my understanding was, but I could be
Yeah.
wrong on that. But
Yeah,
he,
yeah, it's kind of interesting, how the Hong Kong cinema kind of worked out that way. Like a lot of them did try to make it in America, and then I think almost all of them uh, kind of went back to China at the end of. I think that that's what John Woo did, and I definitely know that Troy Hart did that. But yeah.
yeah, awesome. It was awesome to kind of look back and
Mhm.
see like, and you see the one before him, Bruce Lee, and then Jackie Chan is his own phenomenon for sure.
Yeah.
And you have like other minor ones, but like Jet Li, I think he also went back to China as well. I think he was born in China, and he doesn't do any other. I think he did IP Man was like his thing, but that's neither here nor there. I could be wrong with that. It's anyway, it doesn't matter. But
Mhm.
in any
Yeah,
case,
it looks like he was in Expendables. I don't know if Jackie Chan was in any of those either, the Expendable movies.
I wasn't sure. Could be, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
Nope.
no.
That's surprising. But that was like its own little thing though for a while. Like I know,
Right.
I think we both know one person who loved those films. If you're watching this, you know who you are. You're probably not watching this because this isn't your cup of tea, but that's okay. We'll make fun of you later. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Of
Teasing.
course.
Um, yeah, but no, that this was like a fun, lighthearted. And the thing that I can't keep going back to is also he's very jovial too. Like those he's got a good sense of like when to lighten the mood in the films and kind of do this or that. To kind of take the seriousness off, and it never
Mhm.
goes off the rails to like ridiculous or whatever. It's just kind of, it's just
Yeah.
jovial. You can
And
tell
that
he enjoys
mhm.
his craft.
And that's another thing. The the thing that when you watch one of his movies like Police Story 1 or 2, the thing that stands out is his acting and the stunts. So you're always engaged in the movie because of Jackie Chan. He kind of engages you, but the thing you don't realize is that he's directing these two movies, and
Hmm.
that he's acting and directing, and he's making sure that the shots look good, and that the action is flowing and the story is being told in a clear way. And you realize, well, he's a damn good director too.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that and stunt coordinator and producer and a stunt house, the whole thing. Like he's done, he's learned a lot, and you can tell he's iterated over time how he's
Mhm.
improved. To not
Yeah,
just doing like the
yeah.
same box, the same set, the same, cheeky kind of things.
Hmm.
It's always like you said, like they're give me 17 ideas for stunts that haven't been done before or whatever, and he might, like you said, throw them out, but he's always looking for that
Yeah.
next edge.
Yeah, and one thing with say the different styles between Bruce Lee and himself. Bruce Lee, in his fights, in his movies, he was the badass. He was the guy that was like, come here,
Right.
I'm going to take you on, and he would do the high kicks and different things. Whereas Jackie Chan, in his movies, if he could run away from a fight, he runs away from the fight,
Mm,
and it's only until he's quartered that he actually kind of squares off and does the fights. And then he doesn't do any real big flashy jumping kicks or whatnot. He's very down to earth, kind of, hits with the hands, and not a lot of jumping, and not a lot of kicking with
right.
his fights, like you're seeing here. He doesn't worry about, looking like he's getting beaten up. He wants to come across as the every man that he could get beat down, but he could rise up to the occasion.
Yeah,
And
well in Police Story and two, like well, at least with the first one, it's kind of like the underdog kind of sort of thing, like where he
mhm,
he stumbles in and pulls on a thread, and then it becomes this big thing, then
mhm,
boom, you're in the middle of the movie. But
mhm.
yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, and he also says that he does do
Jesus.
wire work in the that's a real hit.
I know,
He's
that's why
uh
shit.
in this scene, he's talking about how that's all choreographed, and he's sort of like risking his life running across that. But when that bus hits him, he said in the previous takes, the guy would stop, before, way before, and he was like, no, you gotta hit me, you gotta hit me. And
You
so,
got to
like,
fully commit.
yeah. So when he fully hit him in that scene, he was like, yeah, that's good. And Jonathan Ross, who's interviewing him, is like, are you crazy? It's like, I would have
Right.
fired the guy. He's like, no,
Right.
he did good.
Right. He did
But
exactly what he wanted him to do for the effect that
exactly.
he wanted, because again, he's a director and he could see that, set that up and knock it down for sure. And he
And
and get knocked down too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And he actually uses wire work, which you wouldn't notice in his movies, and that's key to it. Like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you have all those scenes where the guys are jumping from building to building, and it's obviously wire work. Also with, say the Matrix or whatnot, you see them on the wires and whatnot. Whereas Jackie Chan does employ wire work, but he makes it to where it looks normal. So like if he kicks somebody, he'll have a wire attached to some guy's foot, so where he gets pulled, dramatically away, so like, it kind of adds the drama to his kick.
Okay.
Makes the guy, and there's like a
Huh.
scene where he's fighting a bunch of guys in a child's playground in the Police Story 2 that we saw.
Mm.
There's one where he kicks a guy and the guy goes flying backwards, and that's a guy on wire, but you wouldn't notice it because obviously the wire doesn't stand out, and but he does those techniques to just kind of spice different scenes up. And like this whole shantytown scene where they're like
Right.
just running the cars through, that's the start of the movie, and that's like a
Right.
huge action scene. And
Yeah. Reminds me. Yeah.
yeah, and
That's awesome.
there's and actually I think in Bad Boys 2, there's a similar scene where they actually run through cars through a shanty and totally rip off that scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I
It's been
think,
a minute
yeah,
since I've seen that.
yeah, and because I didn't know that, but there's an interview with uh, one of the guys on my disc, and they were going through the different scenes where America has kind of ripped off Jackie Chan, and that's one of them.
Mm.
And there's a scene in the Sylvester Stallone movie Tango and Cash where some guy is standing and shooting at a bus, and the bus stops, and the guys fall out and hit the ground,
Huh.
which is a
I didn't know that.
total ripoff of Police
Hmm.
Story.
Right. Hmm.
But yeah, so but yeah, it was like America was seeing what Jackie Chan was doing. It was like, oh man, we could do this. And that was one of the things that Jackie Chan was saying in that documentary that we were watching. He said that, every time he does something, everybody says, oh, well, I can do that. And then Jackie Chan says, well, what can I do different?
Right.
That was just sort of his mentality. And then when he do something different, obviously, then they would copy him again.
For sure. For sure. Just this was a good pick this week. It was
Mhm.
just nice change of pace than what we were covering. But yeah, this definitely recommend for
Mhm.
sure. Police Story 1 and Police Story 2, and then by virtue of that, you said there's like 5 or 6 of them,
Yeah.
which we kind of sort of mentioned. Those are also good, I presume,
Mhm.
as well. Like I definitely want to see the lockdown one. it's a,
Yeah.
It'd be fun
Yeah.
to see like a little bit more modern take. Like
Mhm.
it's kind of like his Die Hard, I guess, in a
Mhm.
way. Like
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is like, for I don't know how many damn ones there are, but there's too many. But
Yeah. And now, if I could recommend, is like, if you can find his Hong Kong movies, those would be my definite recommend, as opposed to the American ones. Because
right,
with the Hong Kong ones, there's no insurance. He's doing whatever he can to to please the audience, whereas the American ones, you have your insurance, and you've got all these Hollywood types trying to make sure everybody's okay and not getting harmed. So you don't get the uncut Jackie Chan that you would get with the Hong Kong movie.
right. No, I agree with that. Yeah, it's definitely a completely different experience than the American made, more Western
Mhm.
films where he stars in or makes a cameo or something like that. Like it's
Mhm.
a completely different take.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
good fresh air for sure.
Yeah, and that Police Story one, like I said, he came from the failure of not making it in America the first time. He came back to China. He had a big chip on his shoulder, and he had to prove himself.
Mm.
And that sort of like those underdog movies where you come through and actually prove yourself is sort of kind of the stuff that I love, and the fact that he was able to um, prove himself in Hong Kong, and then that success kind of led to his success overseas and caused all this this excitement to where he was able to come back to America on his own terms and be able to be Jackie Chan and do what he wanted to once he came back. Just kind of proves his determination and not letting his previous failures define who he was. He was
No,
able
not at all.
to prove who he is with Police Story, and then on with his various successes.
He did. Yeah, he definitely served up his own fame, his own version of it. He's got a following.
Mhm.
And I've definitely
Yeah.
can appreciate
And
him a lot more now that
yeah,
I know more now for sure.
yeah, and just to show his heart, he sort of let go and sold off his film company, uh, but he's held on to his stunt team, the stunt company that he has, and he said that he's going to hold on to that stunt company, and then once he passes away, he's gonna, he hopes that that carries on after him, so that the whole heart of that teamwork of his stunt team is sort of like his heart and soul of what he is.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know whenever America and China will have a little bit more open entertainment side. It's
Mhm.
not quite. It's been pretty prickly for a while now, but
Yeah.
hopefully, like whenever in the not too distant future, hopefully there'll be a body of work from those. There'll be the next Jackie Chan from that,
Mhm.
or somebody who can take that and make it into something unique in and of itself.
Yeah.
But definitely a hit maker for sure.
Yeah, and that's yeah, this is sort of like the heart and soul of me as a cinema guy, and it's sort of like who I am as a person. Like I'm always looking for that underground thing, like with music. I'm
Mhm.
always looking for that indie rock band that no one's ever heard of. I was looking for the action guy that no one ever heard of, which was uh in the late 80s. That was Jackie Chan, which
Mm.
of course he blew up after that. But yeah, it's I'm always looking for something a little bit different, a little off kilter, and that's that's sort of what Jackie Chan is.
Finds its own beat,
Mhm.
and you can see it, and appreciate it. Yeah, like
Yep.
thanks for recommending this one this
Yep.
week. It was fun. It was just nice to relax and just watch a good action movie. Even though
Yeah.
it's Hong Kong, like, it's still
Right.
still held up. Like I said, these are exactly what you get. But like I said, there's just like a jovialness he has with it. You can
Mhm.
tell, and it comes through.
Yep.
That's rare indeed, for sure. At least in my
Yep.
opinion, but for sure.
Yep. And our audience out there, if you have a Hong Kong action movie you particularly like, or just a action movie in general, give us a shout out and let us know.
Yeah, what's your favorite? Who is your favorite, martial artist, of that has been on film? Let us know. And always, we hope you can share if you like what you see. If you don't, let us know. Like,
Mhm.
comment, subscribe, or whatever the diatribe from the YouTube side. But this rolls up on this week into this week in our main feature. And
Mhm.
anything else to add?
No, just
Um,
that I have a whole bunch of other Hong Kong and Japanese movies that I could recommend. So if that's something the audience wants to hear about, then I'm more than willing to throw some more suggestions out there.
Well, hell yeah, yeah. I think we will be returning to this genre, or
Mhm.
or thereabouts. No,
Yeah, and
no
that's
doubt in the distant future,
yeah,
for sure.
and that's how we like to spice things up. We don't want to have the same thing every week.
Right. Well,
And
you.
which the YouTube gods don't actually like that. They kind of frown upon it. So we appreciate all the viewers that we have.
We do. We
If
do.
we did the same thing every week, we would get bored. But I think the YouTube gods would like that better. But hey,
Yep.
we like Mike was saying, we kind of march to our own drum.
It's absolutely. Yeah. And this week, I've been Mike,
And I'm Thomas.
and we'll see you next time.
Ah.